Brock Purdy deal, done. Fred Warner deal, done. George Kittle deal, done. What are the 49ers up to? Actually getting stuff done? No clouds hanging over the team heading into training camp. And let's talk schedule. Let's talk wins and losses for the San Francisco 49ers now that we have had business finished on today's Lockdown 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock here with you, and no Croc today. Everybody go find at Coach Crocky on Twitter or drop a comment on YouTube. Wish him a happy birthday. We're recording this on Tuesday, this Winky Wednesday episode. My guest today, Mr. Nicholas Winkler, a.k.a. the voice of the fan. This is Eric Crocker's birthday, and he's actually going to his kids are graduating from high school. So, look, go drop him a nice message. Make him feel young because I can't imagine kids graduating high school. He got started a lot younger than we did, Wink. But, man, I'm still ways off from kids graduating high school, even though both of us are older than Eric Crocker. He's still looking good, still looking spry, moving around well. I saw some clips of him doing some footwork with his kids in high school that he's coaching, and so he's doing pretty well for himself. But he is off, and he's doing that, watching his kids celebrating graduations on his birthday. So Wink and I holding it down today. I do want to thank all the everydayers for stopping in once again and making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And if you're new to the program, welcome. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And now let's properly bring on today's guest.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Wink, the 49ers getting their extensions done early this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I don't even need to finish this segment here because you nailed it. It's a wow situation. It's a who are these guys? Because that just hasn't been the case over the past 5, 6, 7 years. Pretty much the length of this, regime so far since they've taken over with Lynch and Shanahan. It's been a lot of like, let's drag this out. Let's take this as far as we can into training camp. And the season's about to start. Okay, we'll get you locked up. Here we go. Oh, you're not ready to play because you missed all of camp? We'll be all right. They got it done early. They got it done. I think that all of the you mentioned Kittle, you mentioned Warner, you mentioned Purdy. I think they're all great deals. I mean, yeah, they're spending a lot of money, but these are three guys that, one leads the offense, one leads the defense, and one essentially with George Kittle leads the locker room. Like he's just the guy, right? If there's one guy that you want at the head of your franchise, always upbeat, always talking guys up, no matter what's happening out there, it's a George Kittle. So you lock these three guys up and you essentially lock up the core of your football team. They already got Bosa under long-term deal, right? They've got Ayuk hopefully coming back healthy at some point with his, huge deal as well. So the 49ers have invested a lot of money in this football team. And all that being said, they're going to need some young rookies to step up, right? Because they're not going to be able to bring in any more veterans at this point. Or if they are, it's going to be guys that are like big question marks of like, okay, we'll bring this guy in cheap. Hopefully he can find something, some sort of re-spark, a guy that we knew about in the past. Let's bring him in, see if he can do something, because that money's all spent, buddy. We've invested, and you're not going to get any of that money back at this point.
And by the way, for those of you, Mr. Nicholas Winkler, a.k.a. the voice of the fan, my former radio colleague, we used to do a podcast that predates Locked On 49ers back in the day in San Francisco, recording from our radio studios there many times. And also, as the voice of the fan, Wink, what do you think about Brock Purdy's deal? $53 million per year, where he's at versus other quarterbacks in the NFL. And there was a report from Adam Schefter Tuesday morning talking about how apparently the first offers from Brock Purdy's camp was $65 million per year requesting that contract, right? So the fact that the 49ers and Brock Purdy closed that gap, if those are accurate reports, it's even more amazing that they got this deal done in mid-May.
And for me, I look at it a little bit differently than that, right? I mean, we talk about the $53 million per year and the 5 years, $265. Let's not forget that he's going to be playing this year essentially on a 1-year, $5 million contract, right? Because this is an extension. This doesn't replace that 1 year left on his deal. So now you're talking about 270, which comes down to $45 million per year over the next 6 years for Brock Purdy. So that makes it even easier to swallow, right? It makes it like, okay, now he's down around 14, 15, 16 when it comes to overall annual pay for a quarterback in the league. He's down with like Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins and these guys down there where you're like, okay, all right, this is a lot better. I mean, even at 53, that was okay for me. I felt all right with that because, as you said, that 65 that they first came in with, all you were hearing all offseason has been like, oh, they're going to reset the quarterback market. And here we go. And that would have destroyed the franchise. I'm really glad that didn't happen because this, to me, this deal, real team friendly, and Brock Purdy's getting paid. I mean, he's not going to sit there and complain about $45 or $53 million a year over the next 6 years like that. He'll be all right.
Yeah, the fact that it's a 5-year extension plus you have this extra year, the last year of his rookie contract, and spread this whole thing over 6 years. And when we see the exact details, we'll find out, what void years and sort of really flatten that curve of how much they're paying him and still being able to operate with the rest of the team. And did take their medicine in some ways with some of the contracts they did let go in free agency. And there were some difficult decisions there to be made for the 49ers. And obviously the rookie class, especially on defense, is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting with how this remade defense is with Robert Saleh back in the fold. But when it comes to Brock Purdy and the contract, and it takes two sides to be motivated. So I don't think that it was all just the 49ers deciding to get a deal done early. I don't think it was all just the players caving or anything like that, because these guys got paid a lot. Kittle and Warner deservedly make the most of at their position groups. And so Purdy had to be motivated enough and want to be here for everything, for the offseason program, for OTAs. So the sides coming together with these leaders of the football team, I think is a huge statement from both sides to get that done and be in a much better place. Because you remember last year in training camp, and Croc and I talked about this a little bit, but it was like the vibes don't feel right. This is not good. And then there were some fans and even some people in the media are like, oh, you're overreacting. There's no such thing as vibes. And that's not the case. And then the season starts, you see it play out and you're like, yep, there were bad vibes for sure, 100%. And went into the season, obviously some injuries on top of it. So I don't know if vibes are enough. You still have to have the talent, and the 49ers do have some talent. The offense is going to be very similar. Offensive line was probably the one place they've regressed as far as at least depth goes, and lost one of their starters on the offensive line in free agency, and defense potentially completely revamped, but you still have your guy in Fred Warner leading that thing in the middle of the field, which is a big deal, and no clouds hanging over the team in camp, at least right now. And who knows what can happen from here on out. And you hope everyone's healthy going into camp. But right now, vibes are high,
as they should be. I mean, I'd love to see kind of the timeline of this report that Brock Purdy's camp was asking for $65 million, and then like where along that timeline did the 49ers sign Mac Jones? Was it like 65 million? They're like, oh, we got this guy, Mac Jones, that we just signed.
An hour later. Yeah.
How's your 65 million a year looking on average? Because he'll be just fine, coming in here. So I'm stuck by that all along, that was, obviously you want to make your team better and you want to add depth wherever you can. But to me, that seemed a lot like a motivator for Brock Purdy to get into camp as soon as possible.
I think that there was a lot of it that was involved. And I do think that the 49ers probably turned over a new leaf as far as playing hardball and how weird the Ayuk thing was. And they're probably like, okay, if we can't get this done, a little more ultimatums earlier, like, look, okay, you're going to make $5 million this year. So enjoy that.
Here we go.
Brock Purdy wasn't a bonus baby. He didn't have a first round contract as a rookie. Right. And so he was negotiating from a different place than some of these other prospects. But in the end, I think it was a great deal for both sides. And obviously Brock Purdy deserves to be paid. And the 49ers still had to be able to operate while also paying Brock Purdy. And I think all of that was accomplished. So awesome. Congrats to Brock Purdy. He was the last. It's still amazing. We don't talk about it enough. He's the very last pick in the draft. Completing a pass made him the best Mr. Irrelevant of all time. And I want to talk about this next week with Brock Purdy. I just did an episode of Peacock and Williamson where we kind of look back at the 2022 NFL draft. And right now, Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, is the most valuable player from that class in a really weird draft. I want to talk a little bit more about that and take a peek at the schedule because we haven't had a chance to talk about the 49ers schedule yet for 2025. Maybe find where those wins and losses are potentially this season. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And at FanDuel, I put the schedule on the screen a little bit too early there, and I'm now off the screen. Where am I? There I am. I'm on the screen. Winks on the screen. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And look, it's NBA playoff time, right? NBA playoffs full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. There are tons of phenomenal series playing out, getting closer and closer to those finals. And whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And not just get in on the action, but play smart and win big before tip-off, live during the games, same game parlays. And how could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? More on that in a second. Of course, I'm talking to an NFL fan audience, right? 49ers fan audience. You can bet on the San Francisco 49ers to win. You can bet on some of these weekly lines we're going to talk about in the next segment as well. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com or download the app and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So the 2022 NFL Draft, Brock Purdy, pick 262. Now the most valuable player in that draft because he is a quarterback and arguably just the flat-out best player from that draft, even though there's some other good players. There's a lot of busts as well. And you look at just the quarterbacks, right? Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback selected. He's on his third team already. He was the first-round pick. You look at Desmond Ridder. He's already bounced around the league. Sam Howell's on his third team. Matt Corral, third-round quarterback out of Ole Miss, he's never played NFL football. He just didn't exist. It's so strange. And I think it's a great lesson, Wink, when you go back and you know, that was just 3 years ago. And there's players that teams spent day 2 draft picks on, first round draft picks on, that just don't play football. And it's a reminder of like how sideways things can get. And the 49ers made this phenomenal selection, right, of Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft that has become their starting quarterback against all odds of career-wise, but even against all odds on his own roster. He had to beat out Sudfeld just to make the team. And as a 7th-round pick, that's hard enough to do, to beat out a veteran to make the team. But he was actually better than the guy they drafted the year before, number 3 overall, and the veteran who was already on a big money contract, who at one point had signed the biggest contract in NFL history in Jimmy Garoppolo. And he beat out all of them and is better than all of them. And so it's really unbelievable when you look at it like that. But here's the other part of the 2022 NFL draft, Wink, is that the rest of the 49ers draft has been awful.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So bad.
So here's the 49ers draft.
Yeah, start making people mad. Start naming names.
They traded away their first-round pick, the year before, to go and get Trey Lance. Then in the second round, they drafted Drake Jackson, who they just waived, who's been hurt and had half of his career sack production in his first game. We're like, oh, look at those 3 sacks. And then all of a sudden, nope, Drake Jackson's not going to be a factor for your football team. Danny Gray, not on the football team, third-round pick. Ty Davis Price, not on the football team. Spencer Burford, backup role now, started at guard right away. Looked like he was going to be a really good player. We don't talk about a Super Bowl malfunction up front by Spencer Burford, and kind of lost the starting job to Pooney last year. And now he's in a reserve role, and we'll see what kind of role he's able to compete for this year. But still, all in all, to get a guy who's starts some games and is a depth piece isn't terrible for a 4th-round pick. So that's at least a hit. Samuel Womack on a different football team. Tariq Castro-Fields never made the team for the San Francisco 49ers. Kalia Davis still hanging on. Might not make the team this year. Nick Sakel, I don't know how he's continued to make the team. I think him being a roommate of Brock Purdy has been the biggest boon for his career. But, he's a smart guy apparently, and the 49ers like him, and he keeps hanging on. But if he has to play, I don't think that's going to be great for the San Francisco 49ers. But Nick Sakel still hanging on as a 6th-round pick, and then pick 262, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. Not a lot to show for this draft until you get to that last pick and Brock Purdy really saving the 49ers the decision makers jobs, right, Wink? So when it comes to, and we lost Wink, he's coming back here in a second. When it comes to Brock Purdy and you put it in, not only did he save them from the bad Trey Lance decision, he saved them from an entire awful 2022 NFL draft. So like, there's nobody that wanted to reward Brock Purdy more than Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch for potentially saving their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, and look at what the guy did, right? He came right in. And you're like, who is this guy? Like, oh, great, Brock Purdy, here we go. And all he does is go undefeated in the regular season, lead him to the NFC Championship game. Like, it was incredible what Brock Purdy did for this franchise, right? You mentioned I lost internet connection there after Burford. I just got mad. I just shut my computer down because. But I mean, really, like, you look at these draft picks and you miss a lot. And some of these guys that we're really excited about that the 49ers drafted this year, unfortunately, are gonna be misses. And that's just the nature of the game. But let's focus real quick since we're talking about draft picks. 2 guys that just signed, 3 guys. Brock Purdy signed a huge deal, 7th round draft pick. Juwan Jennings last year, big contract. He signed, 7th round draft pick. George Kittle, 5th round draft pick. Fred Warner, 3rd round draft pick. Like, guys that go early in drafts aren't the only guys that are important to football teams. They're not the only guys that could be the highest paid at their position. They're not the only guys that can make $50 million a year. It's all about finding those guys that fit your scheme. And obviously a lot of luck comes along with it too as well, right? Because you could look at all the metrics, look at all the tape, and you're like, this guy is it. I mean, I did it. We've all done it. We've fallen in love with a guy in the draft and been like, he's going to be the one. And then a few off-field things happen or on-field happen. And, just things you can't predict. Things just you probably – yeah.
I know you're going with that.
I mean, I'm tired of saying his name. Talking about broken, I'm going to slam my computer shut again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just him, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys that over the years, the 49ers have been like, this is going to be the guy. You mentioned Drake Jackson. When they signed him, you watch the film, you're like, yeah, this guy's going to be great opposite Nick Bosa. It never really happened. It happened in one game.
Yeah, he's a talented guy.
Yeah. Javon Kinlaw, he was the beast. He was supposed to, replace DeForest Buckner. Never happened. They go.
There's one of the big things. I think Nick's internet might be messing with him again. Might have froze. He's got a shocked face. If you're watching on YouTube. It's pretty, there's so many different ways a draft pick can get sideways. It can be injuries, it can be bad fit. And I think landing spot is one of the more underrated things that happens. And I think the way that Brock Purdy fits, how he plays, how he's wired, I think that's one of the things that you kind of take for granted. It's like, oh, Brock Purdy was going to be great everywhere. I don't know how great Brock Purdy was going to be everywhere. I think it was a phenomenal fit. And I think Brock Purdy is probably very thankful that he landed here, which might be a reason he's more motivated to sign a contract right there. Right, Wink? Because if fit is so important, and Brock Purdy was an amazing fit for the 49ers. Trey Lance being a guy who's really raw, but they're a team that's in the Super Bowl window. You can't really allow him to play. It's hard to develop without playing. The thing he needed most was playing time. Turns out that was an awful fit. Does Brock Purdy turn out, not as good if he goes to a different football team? Adam Schefter reported that he talked to some teams this offseason. It was like, okay, what if the 49ers listen to offers? Would teams be willing to trade something for Brock Purdy? And basically was like, he's great, but he's great there. I think it's the right place for him. That's kind of what other teams thought about Brock Purdy. Nobody was willing to give Brock Purdy $60 million elsewhere either, which might have been one of the factors of him realizing where he needed to sign and how much he needed to sign, and maybe, thankful that the 49ers did draft him. And I think there's a lot of thankfulness on both sides with Purdy and the Niners coming together. And it was just the right fit for everybody. Would Trey Lance have been better if he went to another team that was that allowed him to develop and play a little bit and play through some stuff? Could that have looked completely different for his career? So landing spots are really important in all of this. You need a little bit of luck. You need the player to be able to play through adversity. You need, obviously, the requisite talent to be good. You need to stay healthy. There's just so many different ways that things can go for different players. And, right now everyone's really excited about the 49ers draft. I think the 49ers did have a pretty good draft and drafted a lot of good players, but you go back and look and you're like, oh, some of those guys might literally never impact the football team at all on any Sunday ever.
Yeah,
and some might
and you're not wrong.
All time.
Some might really make Wink mad and want to slam his computer down. I mean,
exactly.
It happens. You get these guys that, oh man, I mean, George Kittle in the 5th round. You're talking about a guy who may go down someday if he keeps putting up numbers like this as the greatest tight end of all time, drafted in the 5th round, right? I mean, this stuff happens. Fred Warner, best linebacker of football, 3rd round. We could sit here and name a lot of these guys. I mean, but then there's the slam dunks, right? Where you're like Nick Bosa, he was a can't miss. And
right.
It's been that way, right? But sometimes those can't miss guys, something happens. You mentioned an injury, or they go to the wrong spot, or they have some off the field stuff, and the draft is a crapshoot, and 49er football drafts have not been amazing over the years. But you look at a couple of guys. I named 4 of them. Juwan Jennings kind of gets left off that list. He was the best receiver for the 49ers last year, 7th round draft pick. So you got to just focus on the good, I think, with this, but don't forget about the bad, because you don't want to make those same mistakes again and get too amped up about, again, this draft that we just drafted. We love a lot of these guys. We're like, yeah, this defensive line is going to be great. Well, I hope so, but we're not going to know much until week 1 rolls around.
Yeah, development is needed. And then thankfully the 49ers have been awesome on day 3, right? Because that's how they built the football team.
Mm-hmm.
Next, let's take a look at the 49ers schedule in 2025, how this thing could go this season, with a lot of young players on defense and a lot of veterans on offense, and all of it still looks like a pretty nice schedule. How many wins can the 49ers amass in 2025? Better be more than 6. Next. All right, for those viewers on YouTube, I'm going to bring it up on the screen, remind everybody what it looks like with the 49ers schedule in 2025. I mean, is this like a cupcake schedule, Wink? What are your thoughts? We haven't had a chance to talk since the schedule was released. It was released after our last Winky Wednesday. In fact, we were on the golf course together as the schedule was being released. And I wish the golf course was a little easier on us than I think the schedule might be for the San Francisco 49ers. Didn't play my best, but I think we're going to have to go back and hit it again. I love the par 6, by the way, Lake Chabot. That's fun. I want another shot at that one because I think you got to – I just missed the fairway. You got to hit that downhill. It could roll. I mean, you'd be talking about 300-plus 400-yard drive on a 600, 700-yard par 6. Have an opportunity to get there in 2 or even 3. I want another shot at that one, man. That's a fun hole.
It was, yeah. I mean, Lake Chabot, fun course, especially for the price. I probably played the worst I've played in a decade, but I haven't played in a year, so I cut myself a little bit of slack. But you talk about that par 6, yeah. When I hit an 8-iron like 220 yards because it just kept rolling down the hill. Man, that's a lot of fun. When you look at the schedule, you like it, right? I mean, it's a last place schedule, and you're playing a lot of last place teams. But then you look at the stats of people with weak schedules going into a season. They usually don't fare very well, but that's because they were a last place team the year before. They probably didn't get a whole lot better. 49ers were a last place team because of injuries. They're coming back healthy, ready to go this year. A lot of road games to start the year as you take a look there. I mean, what is that? 2, 4, 8 out of their first 11 games are on the road. I mean, that's a big number. That could be a little bit tricky, but it could also really kind of look great at the end of the year when you're rested and you got a lot of home games and 3 out of your last 4 after a bye week are at home. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff when you look at this 49ers schedule. I mean, what is it? 3 out of the first 5 here are division games. So you're coming right out and you're playing very meaningful football. Week 1 at Seattle, and then you 2 on the road. That's tricky to start. I feel like the 49ers get that a lot to start the season, right? Am I crazy, or has it been a lot that's happened like that over the past 3, 4, 5 years?
I think it's one of the things the 49ers request is to not have those hot Levi's early season games where the sun's beating down. A lot of their early season games at home are in prime time or on the road. And so I think that's by design. Niners starting off on the road at the Seattle Seahawks. I'm actually going to put a loss in that one, even though there's some revamping and retooling going on. Road games. In fact, what I'm going to do here, and I don't know how you feel about the NFC West, Wink, but I just think the NFC West is going to be a shotgun start. I think there's a lot of evenly matched teams. I think the teams that were bad last year have a chance to be better. I don't think the Rams are really ahead of anybody. And to be honest with you, the Cardinals are better. Not sure exactly what it's going to look like with Darnold and the Seahawks. I think you could argue that one either way. The 49ers just being healthy are going to be better, but they were the last place team last year, only 6 wins. So this could go either way. And I think just as far as projecting and looking at this, I'm just going to say, look, home and home, win, loss, 500 against the division, right? So let's just put that out there and look at some of the non-division games. I don't know if you're okay with that because we're kind of doing this together. By the way, this isn't the Winkstradamus official projections. No. We're going to do those later on in the summer, have a chance to look at camp and stuff like that first before we do those. This is just an initial look at how the schedule could go. Let's say the 49ers split with everybody in the division, right? And so we got 3 wins and 3 losses there right off the bat. And then at New Orleans, that's a bad football team. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care if you're starting the season back-to-back on the road. The 49ers better come down to win there. Do you have an argument with that?
Oh, of course not. I mean, I could go back and argue that week 1 game, right? I mean, yeah, Darnold's probably an upgrade over Geno Smith, but they lost DK Metcalf. They got no more Tyler Lockett. Like, I'm not sure that Seattle's going to be that good of a football team this year. I do like their, the head coach upgrade. But to me, I feel like the Cardinals, that's going to be the first real tough test for the 49ers, I think, because you mentioned it. I think they got better. You could see it at the end of last year, and I think they're gonna be even better this year. I think the one team that I'm most worried about in the NFC West coming up this season is probably the Cardinals, because you got a healthy Kyler Murray. Last year he was just kind of working his way back into shape. Well, now he's had a full off season. He had a full season last year. I'm a little bit worried about Kyler Murray in that team. But then you go Jacksonville, and they to me seem like another team that's just kind of up in the air, just kind of I'm not too worried about them.
You're not a Liam Cohen guy? You don't think Liam Cohen is exactly what Trevor Lawrence needs, and Travis Hunter
he might be
is a dynamic receiving weapon for them? He's got
that juice, right?
They got that juice. Some guys can go down and get it. Big for the Niners early, I think, in the season, a big test for the Niners is how ready to play those rookie defensive linemen are. It's going to be a huge factor.
No, you're not wrong at all about that. And I love the way this season is going to start out for the 49ers. I love the tests. Like you said, tough NFC West. I love that they're going to get 3 games early out of the first 5. Really just going to get some rivalry, blood going. And, I'm looking forward to get a lot of these early road games out of the way. What is that? 3? Oh, actually, it's only 2 10 a.m. start times there in the first 6 weeks, because that first game at Seattle is going to be a 1 o'clock start time. So, yeah, no, I like where the 49ers start. I love that they're getting an early. What is that? Is that a Thursday night game against LA early? Week 5?
Thursday night early. So then you get kind of that mini bye between week 5 and 6 for that long Tampa trip. So that helps. A little rest before you go there. They got a lot of
playoff team though with Tampa Bay. That's going to be a tough game for the 49ers.
I'm putting that in the loss column right now. So I've got 5 too. I've got 5 and 4 when you consider the first 6 weeks of the season and the division opponents. If we're just projecting a little bit of a split, I think the most fascinating games are the team. And look, if this is going to be a more difficult schedule than it looks like on paper, that means teams took a big jump. And the 2 teams I think that have the opportunity to take the biggest jump are probably those guys with first-round quarterbacks last year. The Atlanta Falcons, Week 7. Mm-hmm. That's a Sunday night football primetime game. And then late in the season, December 28th, Week 17, Chicago Bears, same story. Second year, rookie quarterback, and Sunday night football primetime game again. Those two games are very interesting to me. And those teams could both be bad. Those teams could both take a huge step and be really good.
I mean, you could say the same about, the Houston Texans, right? I know that they didn't, they got some injuries late and it kind of derailed their season when it came to wide receivers. But that Week 8 game to me is the hardest probably on the schedule when I look at it. It's a road game. It's at Houston. That's going to be tough. 10 a.m. start after a pretty tough little stretch there, right? You talk about playoff Tampa Bay. You talk about playoff Rams. You talk about a Falcons team that might be a whole lot better. And then you got to go on the road and play at Houston. That to me is the toughest one on the schedule. You also talk about some teams that could figure it out, right? Panthers started playing really well to end the year last year. I mean, that's going to be a Monday night game. I'm really looking forward to that one. The Colts are another team that maybe Richardson can stay healthy and really figure it out. And then that's a tough game at the end of the year. I mean, you don't worry too much about the Browns or the Titans, but who knows? Who knows how NFL team's going to look in week 13 of the NFL season, right? I mean, maybe their young studs have really started to figure it out. Maybe it's hard to really predict that far out. But what I do is I look here and I look at early first 8-9 weeks of the season. What's going to should be an easy win for the 49ers, and what should be really tough, and they got a little bit of both mixed in there.
It's hard for me even to project what, a team like the Browns with either Flacco or rookie quarterback is going to look like, what the Giants are going to look like with a rookie quarterback, or Russell Wilson. I'm not super worried about that. The Panthers still have too far of a ways to go, and I just don't think they're ready. The Titans are bad rookie quarterback. The Colts are kind of in that same mold with the Falcons and the Bears, right? Where they could be a different team on December 22nd than we're thinking they are here on May 20th, right? So, but
Peacock, last year at this time, everybody's looking at schedules and they're like, "Oh, Washington Commanders rookie quarterback, that's going to be an easy win, right? Like, yeah, not a very good football team, blah blah blah." And things could change. They change rapidly. They could change real quick in the NFL. The Texans 2 years ago, before they got Stroud. Same thing, right? Like, okay, Texans, yeah, whatever. A rookie quarterback can change things. I mean, Caleb Williams going into year 2, that he could have a huge, drastic increase in his productivity. And all of a sudden, that week 17 game at home against the Bears in primetime, that could be the most important game of the season and the toughest test. I mean, it's a good-looking schedule, but at the same time, with the NFL, you can go last to first really, really quickly.
Niners need to handle their business. They need to have a lot of development from their young players on the defensive side of the football. They need to stay healthy. But I'm looking at this, and I've got 11-6. Wink. I've got 6 losses.
Flip the script.
Yeah, exactly. Flip it right on its head from last year. Right on its ear. You got 3 division losses. I think they're going to maybe you project one of those teams we're talking about with those younger quarterbacks takes a big leap, right? So maybe you split with you win one, lose one with the Falcons and the Bears in prime time. Maybe you lose to the Texans or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Those are probably the most difficult games I think on the schedule on paper outside of the division, right? And so still you're an 11-win team, but it's really hard to envision. And look, if the 49ers, after paying Brock Purdy, if Purdy doesn't look good, if the 49ers look bad and they don't flip the script from last year, I think it's a hot seat situation because this is as nice of a schedule as you could imagine for the 49ers coming into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to say Kyle Shanahan's on the hot seat because, he's his brilliant mind and he's gotten us so close, right? But at the same time, like you said, you go 6-11 and then you come into a season where you've just spent a ton of money on your core pieces. And if they don't produce and you don't win and you don't make the playoffs again, I think you're right. I think it becomes a real hot seat for him or maybe even for Lynch. I mean, it starts at the top. And if you're not getting it done, I think you're right. I think less than 10 is hot seat situation. I think you're right. I think this is a team that expects to win. They're paying their guys like they're supposed to win. And if they don't, somebody's going to have to pay for it, right?
That is Nicholas Winkler. You can find him on Twitter at Bay Area Wink. And always a pleasure chatting with my guy. He's the voice of the fan. So what he says goes. If you disagree, let us know on Twitter, YouTube comments, subscribe while you're there. And we'll be back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.
I don't buy it.
Can't believe it.